Greetings and salutations. My name is, as always, Kimberly HayDay.
And I'm Amanda Day,
And you're listening to the Fundraising HayDay podcast,
where we cover the how-tos of grants and fundraising.
And how we can all do a better job of changing the world through philanthropy.
And our Patreon subscribers get these episodes early.
What? Listen, if your organization is looking to create a grants team, up its internal capacity for grant seeking, and get feedback on the grants that maybe were not received well by some funders in the past, then the Grants Lab is for you. It's a 7-week cohort-based intensive online training. And our next cohort at the time of this recording, it begins in August 2025. And then our last one of 2025 begins in October.
Yep, that's right. The Grants Lab is the training that Kimberly and I wished we had when we started our careers and started writing grants. And if you love our camaraderie and the way we present information found here on the Fundraising HayDay podcast, then you're going to love the Grants Lab too. So for pricing and exact dates and all the information about the Grants Lab, please visit our website at haydayservices.com, grants-lab. And just a reminder that we do spell HayDay, Hayday, because, it's Kimberly's name and my name smooshed together. So
it's our names, y'all. It's our names, y'all. So don't add us. That's not the way you spell it. Also, there's a video game called HayDay. Great. We are not playing at simulation farming just to differentiate ourselves from other folks. So listen, y'all, after a quick word from our sponsor, we're super excited. This is a lovely, inspiring, heartwarming, heavily accented in the most charming way interview with Cam St Omer-Donaldson, head of engagement and relationships at Fundraising Everywhere. It's fantastic. We are thrilled that S&F Writing Solutions is our podcast sponsor for the second half of season 8. Also, season 8, what? Wow. So founder and CEO Stacy Fitzsimmons holds a Master's of Business Administration where her thesis focused on strategic planning and culture change. Combined with her 20 plus years of experience as a project management and grant professional with a federal grant win rate of 70%, she has learned more than a thing or two about leadership, consulting, and taking calculated risks. So take a listen.
So Stacy, anybody who has spent more than 5 minutes with you knows that you are a big fan of John C. Maxwell. In fact, you are now a part of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Team. So congratulations to that. We'd love to learn a bit more about what that means.
So this actually goes back more than 20 years when I was getting my MBA. My thesis contained part Maxwell material. Let's just put it that way. So I drank the Kool-Aid a while ago. But really I was looking for a way to feel more fulfilled. Not that I don't feel fulfilled when I'm doing the great work of grant writing, but there always seemed to be something missing. And I think it was because when I was going through school, leadership was always part of what I did and just firm beliefs since the time I started working when I was 14. So I found Maxwell again, let's just put it that way, and found out that there was this leadership certification I could get that was associated with Maxwell. And to me, it wasn't even a question of if, it was when. So I started the work back Thanksgiving week of 24. And in March, I got my certification. And so what that means is I now have access to all of Maxwell's curriculum. And I can go in and help organizations, really any size, develop leaders from within, but also develop top-level leadership too, to be stronger and be able to withstand change, to be able to navigate tough choices. If it's a new leader of a new organization, how to develop your organization under your new leadership. Or for those that have been there a while, how to re-engage your staff if that's something that's needed. So, and as part of this, I get mentored by some of the best leadership experts across the country, including John Maxwell himself. Got to meet him in March. Fangirl moments all over the place. But I also get to be mentored in speaking, coaching, and training, which for me, those are probably my top three things I would love to do if I was not sitting at a computer, especially if this year is any indicator. So I get to develop myself while I help others develop as well. So it's just a phenomenal experience, and I can't wait to share what I'm learning with everyone.
Well, your passion for it certainly shines through. So I love that for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
To find out more about Stacy Fitzsimmons, SNF Writing Solutions, and her incredible offerings, visit snfwritingsolutions.com.
So today we are being joined by Cam St Omer-Donaldson, a recognized nonprofit leader, speaker, and very shy retiring person. She's known for making the complexities of fundraising, compliance, learning, and charity culture engaging, accessible, and even enjoyable. So the jury's out, but she's here to change your mind.
Yeah.
She's currently head of membership engagement at Fundraising Everywhere, driving growth strategy and learning experiences for fundraisers all over the world. For more than a decade, she's helped charities build trust, transparency, and ethical best practices, equipping them with the confidence and skills to thrive. We're not geeking out over compliance, which is completely understandable, and we salute that here. But we're not geeking out over compliance or Beyonce. She's either at the theater,
darling,
or rewatching RuPaul's Drag Race, as we all should be doing. So welcome to the show, Cam.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Everyone should be watching RuPaul's Drag Race all the time. It's a great use of time.
I sadly have never seen the show, so I've already added it to my watch list because we know what I'm doing over my lunch break today.
You learn so much.
We were talking about this before we started recording. You can just watch the reaction shows on YouTube, and they're just, in fact, sometimes they're even funnier. But then to get the real silly drama when people in uncomfortable costumes are corralled for hours and then given liquor drinks, you do need to watch.
It's a recipe.
Yes.
Oh,
that's awesome. So, well, we're glad to have you here today, Cam. We always love to hear our guest origin story. So we'd love to hear how you ended up in the nonprofit world to begin with.
yes. My introduction to the nonprofit world, to fundraising, to the sector and storytelling was my first ever job as a telephone fundraiser back in 2010. I definitely sort of like fell into this role. I was doing it part-time while I was at university. I was like, I don't want to sell double glazing windows. Lots of friends were doing that as like a part-time role or doing some research. I was like, I want to do something good. I want to do something that feels good. And I guess I've changed like the narrative of like, I kind of was doing it part-time and I fell into the role to a narrative of it really like chose me. I know that sounds super cheesy, but that's also me.
Yeah.
And I think I just loved the ability to inspire people, to really make people feel something. I mean, my whole life, I actually wanted to be an actress. So I guess it was like the second best thing that I could get to make people feel something. And honestly, that feeling is second to none and it's never changed. To like inspire someone so much over the telephone. They've never seen you, they've never met you. So much so that within 5 minutes of a conversation, they part with their hard-earned cash, pounds, dollars. They change their behavior for someone or something they've never met, for a cause that they believe in. I mean, honestly, it filled me with all of the good vibes, the good feels. And I've never left, clearly, the sector since. And I now get to inspire other fundraisers to do exactly the same thing. You were listing there, like a few of my roles, Kimberly. You know, I've been working a lot behind the scenes in like enabling teams is what we call them, sort of operational teams within fundraising compliance, of course, training, supporter experience. And it's led me to my current role now, where I get to support the entire sector globally with fundraising everywhere as head of membership engagement. And, I guess, like I said, it really does fill me with all of the joy and the good feels to really see the faces of fundraisers as they learn, they're inspired, they feel confident, and then they go off to do awesome and amazing things. So that's sort of, yeah, I guess where I fell into it. And I've been always chasing that sense of community. It's a really big part of me. And I think fundraising everywhere was like a really great place to land with all of that. Because I've got now like an entire fundraising community every day that I get to engage with. And yeah, it's super beautiful.
I'm just really glad you're using your powers for good, because that is an incredible persuasive talent.
Yeah.
Cold calling potential donors. Wow.
I know.
I am super introverted, so to me, I'm like, I think I would rather work. I know y'all don't have Waffle Houses and there over there, but I'm thinking I would rather be a waitress in a diner. I would rather, I'd rather do that than cold call people. But
Oh, do you know what? It was so interesting. Like, genuinely, the people that you speak to. And of course, it also taught me a lot about rejection, the key skill, resilience that we need as fundraisers. It taught me loads about that too. But yeah, it's just a melting pot of people who work there. And yeah, it was a really beautiful time in my career. I feel very lucky.
Well, so I appreciate your enthusiasm, because I am the extrovert of our team. And even I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that either. You're behind you. They can't see you. They can't see you.
That's true.
Okay, that's also true. And it seems like when we talked to Simon, who is one of the co-heads of fundraising everywhere, it seems like he got his start, but I think he was the one that walked up to people with a clipboard.
Yes.
Oh no.
I did some of that too. Face-to-face fundraising was also a big deal. Yeah, it got me out. It got me out and about. It got me meeting people. And I really say, like, it's the fundraiser front line. Like, telephone fundraising, face-to-face fundraising is like so like on the front line of being in community with your supporters. And in some ways, I mean, I don't want to go back to telephone fundraising or face-to-face, although I love it and I think it's a great channel. But in some ways I miss it, like, the everyday contact with new and different people. I love that.
I can see that. Can we take a quick moment to let people know who may not be familiar, what is it that Fundraising Everywhere does, just in a nutshell?
Yeah, for sure. I guess Fundraising Everywhere is a community, first of all. We're predominantly an online digital community who provide professional development, peer support, networking for fundraisers and future charity leaders everywhere, as it says on the tin. So we hold things like, monthly webinars, training, we curate training experiences and meetups throughout the year so that fundraisers really feel skilled and confident at work. We provide unlimited access to those resources so people can access it both live and on demand, which really helps to make it kind of accessible, helps to make it inclusive. And again, back to my, I think I've said it like already twice, but back to that element of community, because it can be especially tough and really isolating, right? Especially for smaller organizations, or if you're a lone fundraiser wearing like multiple hats. It's a highly rewarding role for sure, but very, very tough. And it might take you like months to see the fruits of your labor. So being in a space where you get to kind of rant if you need to, share your successes with others, learn from others before you try something and see like another blueprint is like genuinely beautiful. So we have over 2,000 individual members who are part of the Fundraising Everywhere community, and over 85 organizations globally who engage with our platform. And my role is to ensure that the members have the best experience, that they get all of the learning and development that they need, and to ensure that there's spaces for that connection, really. So yeah, that's who we are. I love that we get to find out as well, like particularly in my role. I always say I have the best role at Fundraising Everywhere. Although like curating the events is also a pretty cool role. But I get to find out like really what's keeping fundraisers awake at night. Both from a space of like what's bringing them joy and they just haven't been able to share because they're on to the next thing and they haven't had a moment to celebrate, but also from the big challenges that are on their minds. They share that with us at Fundraising Everywhere, we reach out to experts or other charity leaders and we say, can you come on our platform and run a training on this or a workshop on this? So that fundraisers are always getting their needs met when it comes to that kind of learning and inspiration as well. My favorite phrase is inspired people inspire people. And I think that's what we do at Fundraising Everywhere.
True. And while a lot of our listeners might be a little bit more involved in grants, I know so many people who do it all. They're writing grants, they're asking for individual donations, they're planning fundraiser events, fund runs, galas, all kinds of things. So a lot of times it's multiple hats, but it's all around trying to connect with either donors in one-to-one or institutions. So yeah.
Exactly. And I think, often fundraising is changing all the time, right? Like you're speaking with the public, you're speaking with a wide variety of people. And I think sometimes because of that changing nature, it's what keeps it exciting, but it's also what means you need to consistently be innovating in different shapes and forms. So having a platform like Fundraising Everywhere really allows you that access to be able to do that literally at your fingertips, if that's what you need.
Yeah. Well, and I would say too, I naively assumed when I first heard and we started interacting with Fundraising Everywhere, because you are located in Europe, assumed that that was where your focus is, but you really are globally. And I mean, most of our listeners are in the United States and you have members who are
Yes.
located here as well.
We do indeed. We have members who are from everywhere. One of our biggest organizational members is WWF International, and
Sure.
all of their branches, or I don't know what you call them, but all of their offices across the world are part of the
Sure.
Fundraising Everywhere membership community. So we get people tuning in from Kenya, Australia, the States, Europe, wherever. And yeah, it's really beautiful to see.
Nice. Well, we wanted to talk to you about a lot of things, but one of the things that really interest us is that Fundraising Everywhere recently commissioned a research surrounding the positive impact of investing time and money into learning opportunities for people who work for nonprofits and charities, right? And how it can help them retain staff and reach financial goals. So first, we'd like to start off with talking about what made you commission that report to begin with.
Well, I mean, I guess our mission at Fundraising Everywhere, yes, is community, but it's also to democratize learning and development for everyone, to make it inclusive, to make it supportive, to make it accessible for everyone in the sector. And I think, therefore, we believe that training in terms of it being accessible to all and empowering fundraisers to improve their skills should also be available then for everybody to access. Fundraisers are constantly being asked to meet ambitious targets despite limited resources, to navigate, pressures. And it's so essential to focus not only on those financial outcomes, but also on the professional development and well-being of those of us who are driving these efforts every single day and giving a lot of ourselves to the role. I haven't tried many other roles. I don't think any other roles apart from I used to work in a lingerie shop. Interesting fact, that was my first ever job. But that's the only other job I've done. So I haven't tried others, but I think, it really is one of those where you put your whole self into it and your whole passion. So you really need to look after the person. But we know, and the reason that we really wanted to commission this research, yes, that there are those time pressures. We think it's important demonstrating that tangible impact of training and learning and development to senior leaders within your organization, to budget holders within your organization can be so, so challenging to be able to get the investment and the prioritizing or prioritizing learning and development in the way that it should be. So by doing this research, what we really set out to do was to prove what we already know, that learning and development and investing in that enhances job satisfaction, improves retention, and ultimately helps you reach your financial goals. So we undertook this research so that the findings could support us with, the data, the evidence, and that's exactly what it did. Everyone loves some sort of data and stats. And the report really shows that, the impact of not having learning and development on your fundraisers, on their ability to be able to reach their targets, performance, objectives, and job satisfaction is huge. So that was one of the reasons that we really wanted to commission the research. Like we've been banging the drum, as I know so many fundraisers out there are, for like why learning and development's important, and the fact that it can take different shapes and forms as well. Like, it's not just the typical way you might have thought about it. And now this research really gives us something tangible, hardcore evidence that you can put in front of your budget holders, your senior leaders, and say, look, it's this. It's not just a nice to have or a tick box. It actually is going to help us to do better, therefore serve the communities that we support better and make sure that I'm enjoying doing it.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, that's exactly why we commissioned it.
So one of the things that fascinated us, because like Fundraising Everywhere, we offer trainings and all sorts of different kinds of things around that. But when we read from the report that you shared that almost half of the respondents to the survey do not have any kind of learning and development plan, and of those that said yes, that we do have a plan, only 12% said they have a plan that's regularly reviewed, which to me is like, I think someone wrote it and talked about it in some directors meeting 4 years ago, and that's it. But also, as you so astutely pointed out, there's a lot going on. There's extra pressure, all kinds of crazy extra funding stresses, certainly in the United States right now with all the changes that are coming really hard and fast.
For sure.
What suggestions do you have for fundraisers or development directors, grant writers who are wearing many different hats, who are there in those small to medium-sized charities to grow their learning and development opportunities, right? When it's kind of given maybe lip service, maybe a little bit according to the results of your survey, but how can they kind of take that from something in some list somewhere and make it a reality?
For sure. I guess, yeah, that was really saddening to me. And I'm sure many of us have had a similar experience where I don't know, maybe you start a new role and, your manager or something with all the best intentions or says, let's put together a personal development plan for all the things that you want to learn throughout the year. And then it's never spoken about again because everything piles up. And genuinely having a live and reviewed plan. It's like that phrase, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And you would never dream of launching a campaign without a strategy or a plan in place, several meetings that you may have had ahead of time to make sure that you can give it the best opportunity of success. And then once that campaign's happened, right, you evaluate it, you report on it, you change things, and you do something differently. So why on earth do we treat our learning and development any different to how we would treat a campaign objective, for example? So one of the tips that I certainly have for smaller organizations is firstly remembering in terms of really making that learning and development tangible is yes, pulling together a plan. We have loads of resources that we've developed on the Fundraising Everywhere platform that allows you to be able to do that in a really easy way. And it doesn't have to be something grand. Maybe it's just, what have I learned today that inspired me? And what am I going to take from that I'm going to put into action? Maybe it's just those two questions, right? And by learn today, it's not just thinking about learning and development in terms of attending a conference or spending an entire week at an event. Who did you speak to by the water cooler, as we talk about it, like water cooler chats? Who did you network with on LinkedIn? What article did you read on LinkedIn that taught you something? What podcast did you listen to where you learned hopefully it was this one, where you learned some new skills or there was something really insightful that you said you wanted to try and you wanted to do. And if you've set out in your plan that, I really want to upskill in digital fundraising, well, then I want to be following on my LinkedIn digital fundraisers in the sector. I want to make sure that I'm having conversations with the digital marketing team in my organization, and a cup of coffee with them virtually or in person is already you putting into and investing in your learning and development. It doesn't always have to be this sort of grandiose, kind of time sucker, which came out of the research as well about, the thing blocking lots of people is that time. And I think micro learning and really looking at learning and development, not just being in the traditional sense of sitting down often in a conference hall, listening to a presentation, although I'm a fan of that. It's not the only way that people learn best. So I think the first thing is, yeah, definitely getting a plan in place. And that could be as simple as, I just want to learn one new skill this year, or I want to feel inspired again about developing my stewardship journey for my donors. And then asking yourself every time you interact with an article, a person, you see a campaign from another organization, wow, what was I inspired by? and what's one of those things that I can put into action, and bringing that into and back to those kind of lead, what can leaders do? I guess that's as a fundraiser. If you're a manager, if you're a leader, really thinking about how you bring that into your sort of one-to-one and personal development conversations with staff, because again, often if you do have those one-to-one meetings with managers, I know sometimes again time gets in the way, but let's say you're having a monthly catch up, often that hour or half an hour you've got in is focused on what are you working on, what do you need to work on next, what's your challenge, what's been the success, what do we need to do tomorrow, and very little time is prioritized to what have you learned, like what did you try and it didn't work. What have you seen other organizations doing that we could maybe try? What have you seen other organizations doing and not being successful in? Who else in the organization have you spoken to try and learn about what else they might be doing and develop those relationships? So I really think kind of embedding it and making it part of those conversations that you're having internally, as well as putting a plan together, is what's going to serve you super well, particularly if you're a smaller organization, as always, who's strapped for time. And just the last thing on the small organization piece, we also know that through the research, smaller organizations are, of course, having a much tougher time, which was incredibly saddening. And I heard a really, really great thing from they are the director of income generation, I believe, at an organization called Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance in the UK. And one of the things that they do, they are members of Fundraising Everywhere. So I definitely suggest that it's affordable and accessible. But what they also do is any training or workshops that they have for their team, if they've got spare spaces, so, you know, sometimes you'll sign up for a workshop or a conference or whatever it might be, right? Some sort of learning, and it will say 30 people can attend, but maybe you only have 15 in your organization. They pull together with another organization and they have a slightly bigger budget. So they allow the other organization to attend the training with them. Like, why not? We should be so much more collaborative. So that means you pay for one training, but two organizations get the benefit of that. And maybe one of those organizations would have never had the budget or the funding to be able to access that. So it's a great way of giving back, of sharing resources and making sure everyone has access to that as well. So I always love that idea.
Brilliant.
Nice.
Hmm. Well, and I
I'm
like
taking notes. I'm just over here taking notes, thinking about
love
things.
it. Well, I liked what you said because, like, so often when you think professional development and learning, you do go to, you know, where should I be a member? What organization should I join for membership? What conference am I going to? And you do tend to think in that scale, which it can,
Mhm.
that's where the expense lies, right? When you're traveling to events and doing all those things. So
And the time. And the
I love
time.
in the time, yeah. Then you're away from the office, but the thought of like even if it's you're following people on LinkedIn, you're reading an article, it's a free webinar, you might get to a podcast. So I love thinking of it in that terms, and I
Yeah.
also love how you brought out part of it's too you getting what are you doing that gets you excited about your job because that really was the impetus for Kimberly and I starting the podcast because we both were kind of in that slump of we've been doing it a while. Do we still love grants? I don't know, and this was a way we learned something new, right? Figuring out how to podcast, you know, how are we going to do this? What are the episodes going to look like? All that stuff. And now here we are, season 8, years later,
Love
figuring
that.
out like interviews like this where we get to learn something new. Like we love having guests on because I mean, it's great to share, but selfishly, Kimberly, and like, who do we want to talk to? Because we get to learn, right?
I love that. And I think that really pulls out something that I'm a massive fan of. I don't know how much you're familiar with it in the States, but something called squiggly careers. And if you're not following them on LinkedIn, you should. So they coined the phrase squiggly careers there. I think they're two people who, from memory, like they also have a podcast and they speak a lot about the fact that, you know, for me, learning and development wasn't always about progression. And I think often it's positioned that way, right? Like it must mean that you want to go and be, I don't know, the head of or the director. Actually, it just means I want to be maybe motivated and inspired, and maybe I'll have a sidestep and I might have a slightly different career and start a podcast for a bit. But guess what? When I go back to writing grants, I've got different skills and I've got a different enthusiasm. And like my career in fundraising was super squiggly. You know, it wasn't all about this one sort of road trajectory and that often looks up. It was like a bit, you know, like the ping pong balls, like it was a bit like side to side and all around the houses. And I think I'm such an advocate for people having squiggly careers and not just thinking of learning and development because you want to progress, just because actually, I just want to feel something. I want to be inspired. Inspired people inspire people. So I think it's, yeah, really important that you're constantly filling up your jug.
I love that. Squiggly careers.
Yeah, they're awesome. I must say it's not my phrase, but yeah, follow them. And yeah, they've got a podcast. They talk to lots of really amazing people who have had careers and done jobs that you just wouldn't dream of, but they all work together to make you brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lovely. Well, kind of in that same vein, would like to find out some more, again, going back to your study, that one of the overall findings in the study was that fundraisers who feel supported in their professional growth perform better and are more likely to remain in their roles, helping to alleviate the sector's income, recruitment, and retention challenges. So which I've heard the phrase before, it's like, people are like, well, what if I invest all this money and then the people leave? And the other side of that is, what if you don't invest and they stay forever, right? So it's kind of catching that in. So how do we get that message out to bosses and boards and directors that learning and development really should be a priority in their budget?
Yes, absolutely. I think firstly, if you're listening clearly to this podcast, share the report with your senior leaders.
Yep.
Hopefully we can link to it in the comments or in the
We'll
chat.
put it in the show notes. Yep,
In the show, there
absolutely.
you go. I knew there was like a professional word
Term.
for it, but yeah,
So
in the
fancy.
show notes. I love it. That really makes me feel a little bit like an actress, so I love that. Um, so yeah, please share the report. It's again hardcore facts and figures, and that really help that. I think the other thing is really thinking back to that retention piece. Leaders should be sort of role modeling too, you know? Lots of managers and leaders that I meet and I interact with, they say often when we talk about learning and development, oh, but my team know they can do that. Or my team know. And I'm like, have they ever seen you do it? Have we factored time into their to-do list and day to day so they know that there's space to do it? Have
Mhm.
we put that in their objective? Like, will they get celebrated not just for bringing on board a new trust or foundation, but also for learning a new skill? Because that's going to drive them for where they go. So, what are you measuring as a leader? And I think really being able to bring that to your leadership team through the report is something that's super helpful in terms of encouraging them about prioritizing it. We also know that literally the hardcore facts are that charities that prioritize learning and development are more likely to meet their fundraising targets. So almost, I think it was like 91% of people, sorry, 91% of people in growing organizations that were doing well and being successful had attended training.
Mhm.
Organizations that had dedicated learning and development resources and access to development opportunities were consistently outperforming those without those key performance metrics.
Yeah.
So it again, back to those hardcore, you can't argue with the data, right? It's showing you that literally if you want to be successful in your fundraising, and that's what we're here for, right? To support those communities that we support. If you want to be successful, it is about investing in your team. And like you said, what if they leave, but what if they stay? And if they leave, maybe they go on to make the sector great. I think there's something about also looking at which has shifted a lot from when I first joined the sector. But I think there's something about really looking at it as we're making the entire sector awesome, and therefore that's benefiting the entire society, humanity, the world. And like whether you stay in my organization, I mean, I'd be super sad, but hopefully you had an amazing experience and you got all the learning and development you needed. That now you're over there doing, I don't know, you're working in an environmental organization and helping a different cause. And like that's beautiful because that's just making sure that everyone who's involved in our sector and in our profession are all being upskilled and sharing and learning from each other. So I think there's definitely something in making sure they see the hardcore stats, leaders. Obviously, we know that it's going to drive better performance as well, and it's going to mean that you're going to meet those objectives, and your staff are going to be happier. And we've also got evidence happier staff also get better results.
True.
It's kind of a no-brainer, right?
Right.
And I think demonstrating it yourself, really contemplating and asking your leaders, if you're not a leader on this pod, like listening to this podcast, maybe asking your leader, like, when was the last time you learned something new? What
Mhm.
was it? When was the last time you tried something and it didn't work? Or you tried something and it really did? And where did you find that idea from? It might really get them to start thinking about how they role model that learning and development too. Because a lot of the time as well, back to that idea about learning could be having a coffee with someone or, you know, they go to like networking events or all of this kind of stuff. Like you must be learning stuff. You must be hearing things, sharing that back and really creating that culture within the organization is what's going to make sure that that's being prioritized and driven. as well. Um, Someone also said this to me. I can't remember if it was recently when I was speaking to a recruitment consultant or if I heard it on another podcast. But people who are looking for roles as well, if you're thinking about it as a leader and you want, of course, your organization to be able to have great talent so that they can be really successful for the causes you care about, right? People who are applying for jobs are also looking within those job advertisements about what learning and development offers there are. We all know in the charity sector, the pay sometimes isn't, well, often, always, isn't the same as working in the private sector, right? So you don't often do it for that, right? You're not often here for the pay. So if that's not the kind of driver as to why I'm here and why I want to kind of be in this role, maybe learning and development opportunities are. And there was lots of feedback coming that people were actually looking for that in job adverts to see what access do I have to learning and development if I take on board this role, like almost as a perk to the role, right?
Yeah, it's a
And
benefit.
it should be a given. So I would say you need to be putting that in your ads, and therefore you need to be doing it to put it in your adverts, and therefore attracting the best talent that's out there.
I, you know, I want people to know where to find you, but I'm also trying to think of a way, Cam, that I could just somehow gather just a little bit of your positive, wonderful energy and just have it every day. And I am not, Amanda will tell you, I'm not, um, I can be kind, I'm not necessarily nice. So
Okay.
I really do. I really,
We
I
need
really
kindness and niceness in the world. You need
I
both.
mean, they're two different things. They're
Uh-huh.
polite and kind. But thank you. I needed to hear this today, and I cannot help but think that there are other people who are feeling a little down and out or a little weary, and knowing that there's a lot of hard work ahead to just hear your positivity. So thank you so much. I really,
Yeah.
I
really
love
appreciate
that.
it. But
I
since
mean,
we
look out. I might start bottling my positivity up and selling it. So do
feel
look
like
out.
I feel like street has opened up. But until you get the factory kind of permissions to bottle and sell that, whatever that may be,
Yeah.
um, how can people find you and more information about fundraising everywhere?
Of course. So you can find me on LinkedIn. So it's Cam St Omer-Donaldson on LinkedIn. Follow me. I'm often sharing things about compliance because I love fundraising compliance or learning and development because as you've just heard today, I also love learning and development. So do follow me there. Also, fundraisingeverywhere.com. That is where the world, the universe of all things fundraising, all things community is. As I mentioned, I'm head of memberships, so you can register your interest. You can chat with me about becoming a Fundraising Everywhere member or bringing your team along as a member, which means you get access to everything in the universe, all the online conferences, workshops, training, learning and development resources, planning documents and templates. You get access to all of that as part of that membership as well. So, and the community, which again, we know is so important. So my email address is cam@fundraisingeverywhere.com. Our website is fundraisingeverywhere.com. And of course, you can follow me on LinkedIn as well. I love to chat if you couldn't tell. So please do get in touch with me.
Yes. One thing I will say, a follow up what we were just talking about too, is I think a lot of people don't know to even ask for learning and development, right? My very first job, I remember I had a
Mm,
boss that like he didn't believe in it. So for the first several years, I did get to go to a few training sessions, but like as far as like joining other organizations and collaborating with other people, that wasn't happening. And even so when I moved into my next organization, I that wasn't built into our budget. And the
mhm.
only reason I finally asked for it is because I met another fellow grant professional who was like, "Hey, I'm trying to find a conference to go to. I think I might go to this one this year. Would like it'd be more fun if we knew somebody you want to go to." And I was like, "Huh." And went to my boss and pitched it, and he was like, "Yeah, we can make that happen." And so now from then on, after going to that, I would every budget season come to him and go, "This is what I want to do." And
Yeah,
sometimes they're like,
for
especially during
sure.
the recession. The training is always seems to be the first thing to get cut, but it
Mhm.
really did take me going, I want to do this and this is what it's going to cost. And so my encouragement is to don't be afraid if it's not already built in, ask for it because
Ask for it.
you don't ask, then it's certainly not going to happen.
Well, we should know this as fundraisers, right? If you don't ask, you don't get. And I think that is such a great part to end on. We put a lot of emphasis on like leaders, and I think absolutely it is leaders' roles with they've got budget or permission, all of that kind of thing. But it is also up to the individual as well to also be proactive, as you've mentioned, Amanda, like in asking for that learning and development opportunity, but also seeing those opportunities in the everyday.
Yeah.
Okay. And like really being able to hold on to those, like I said, those conversations, who you follow with, who you network with, because they might invite you over to a conference. They might make sure that you can join their membership and bring you along to a training that they're attending. So I think it's also down to the individual to make sure that you're also looking out for those opportunities as much as it is for your leaders, to make sure that that's accessible and available for you as well. Nice. I really like that.
Well, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Oh, it's been lovely. Thank you so much. It's really great to get to speak with the States as well. I'm based in Europe, so yeah, it's nice to speak to a different audience. So hello and goodbye, I think.
Thanks again to today's sponsor, S&F Writing Solutions. If you want to learn more about all that Stacy and her team offers in terms of resources, coaching, and writing services, visit their website at snfwritingsolutions.com.
Thanks as always, whether this is your first time or your 150 odd time, whatever time it is. Thank you for joining us today. I was just deeply inspired by our interview with Cam, and I really hope you enjoyed it at least half as much as I did. And thanks again for all your support.
Yeah, Cam was so infectious. So she left me inspired for sure. So hopefully, like you said, hopefully everyone else too. So as always, we're honored you chose to spend time with us today. We hope you'll join us again in 2 weeks where Kimberly and I are talking about educating up in your workplace. So we'll see you then.
See ya.